Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're cutting through the hype and maybe some of the fear surrounding blockchain in healthcare.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Our mission here is to really analyze the source material. What are the actual promises? What are the real problems? And the technical hurdles of bringing blockchain into medicine.
Exactly. Because let's be honest, healthcare systems, well, they're struggling. We're talking massive security breaches, systems that don't talk to each other. It's fragmented.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the whole issue of counterfeit drugs. So the big question is, can this decentralized ledger technology actually be the solution for managing sensitive data for securing supply chains?
Right. And we've got a good stack of sources, market reports, technical deep dives, case studies looking specifically at health records and drug tracking.
Yeah, some really interesting stuff in there.
Okay, so let's start with the why. What are the core pain points driving this whole discussion? You mentioned security breaches.
Oh, yeah. The financial hit is just unbelievable. Healthcare consistently has the highest average cost for data breaches, period.
Higher than finance, than government.
Higher than any industry. As of mid-2024, the average cost hit nearly $10 million. $9.77 million to be precise.
Wow.
And that's up 10% in just 1 year. It's climbing fast.
And it's not just money vanishing, right? The sources said 70% of organizations hit reported major disruptions.
Exactly. Significant or extremely significant disruptions. So think about it. That means delayed treatments, canceled appointments, chaos, basically. It directly impacts patient care.
Okay, so massive financial risk, massive operational disruption. What about the fragmentation you mentioned? These siloed systems.
Right, siloed data. It basically means different hospitals, clinics, labs, pharmacies, their computer systems don't talk to each other effectively.
So getting a patient's full picture is hard.
It's incredibly time-consuming sometimes, like almost impossible. You've got incomplete records floating around.
Kind of consequence of that.
It leads to mistakes, treatment errors because the doctor doesn't have all the information, delayed diagnosis, worse outcomes. Some sources point to examples like in Latin America, where this fragmentation means lower screening rates for diseases, slower referrals. It genuinely impacts health, even potentially mortality rates. People lose faith in the system.
Okay, so we've got data security costing millions, fragmented systems hurting care quality. Let's shift to the physical side. Counterfeit meds. How big a threat is this?
It's huge, and it's global. These aren't just poorly made generics. These are fakes designed to look real.
But they don't work.
Best case, they lack the active ingredient. Worst case, they contain harmful, toxic stuff. And it happens everywhere, even in developed countries, though it's worse in low-income regions.
The WHO had a statistic on that, right?
Yeah, a pretty sobering one. 1 in every 10 medical products in developing countries is estimated to be substandard or fake. 1 in 10.
That's terrifying. Imagine relying on medicine that's either useless or actively harmful.
Exactly. It completely undermines trust in the entire healthcare supply chain.
Okay, so the need is clear. Vulnerable data, fragmented care, dangerous fakes. How does blockchain propose to fundamentally change this? What's the core idea?
It boils down to the nature of the ledger itself. It's distributed and immutable.
Unpack those terms for us. Distributed.
Means the database, the ledger, isn't stored in one central place. Copies are spread across many computers, many nodes in the network.
Okay. And immutable.
Means once data is recorded on the blockchain, it can't be secretly changed or deleted. It's permanent and transparent.
So how does that help security?
Well, think about hacking it. To compromise the data, a hacker can't just break into one server. They'd need to attack and alter all the copies, or at least a majority, simultaneously, which is incredibly difficult. Makes unauthorized access much, much harder.
Right. And layered on top of that ledger, we have smart contracts.
Exactly. These are like self-executing agreements written in code. They automatically enforce rules or actions when certain conditions are met.
Like what, for example?
Could be anything. Automatically confirming a drug delivery when it reaches the pharmacy, releasing payment once a service is verified, managing patient consent for data access.
And the key is, it happens automatically without needing a human intermediary or a central authority to approve it.
Precisely. It cuts out the need for a traditional trusted third party because the trust is built into the code and the transparent ledger itself. Any stakeholder can verify the terms and the execution.
Okay, so there are different types of blockchains, right? We hear about Bitcoin, Ethereum. Are those what healthcare would use?
Generally, no. Those are public blockchains. Anyone can join, which is great for decentralization, but not ideal for healthcare's privacy needs. Plus, they can be slow and energy intensive.
So what's the alternative?
Healthcare is leaning towards private, or more commonly, consortium blockchains.
Explain those.
A private blockchain is controlled by one organization. A consortium blockchain is governed by a group of pre-approved organizations, maybe several hospitals, insurers, and pharma companies, for example.
Ah, okay, so you need permission to join.
Exactly. Participants are authorized, which boosts trust and security. Transactions can be much faster, too. Platforms like Hyperledger Fabric are often mentioned for this kind of setup. It seems like the better fit for the sector.
Makes sense. But healthcare data, we're talking huge files sometimes, right?
Yeah.
MRI scans, X-rays. Can you really store all that on every single node of a blockchain?
Ah, good question. And the answer is usually no. That would be incredibly cumbersome and expensive. Scalability is a major issue.
So how do they handle it?
They typically use a hybrid approach. The actual large data files, like an encrypted electronic health record, EHR, or an image, stay off-chain, maybe in secure cloud storage or hospital servers.
Okay, so what does go on the blockchain?
Lightweight stuff. Things like hashes, pointers, and metadata.
Hashes. What's a hash in simple terms?
Think of it like a unique digital fingerprint for the actual data file. It's a small string of characters derived from the file. So you store this fingerprint on the immutable blockchain. The actual file stays elsewhere, encrypted. If anything changes in that off-chain file, even one tiny bit, the fingerprint, the hash, will no longer match the ones stored on the blockchain.
Ah, so it acts as a tamper-proof seal or index.
Exactly. You instantly know if the off-chain data has been messed with, and the blockchain, using smart contracts, can control who gets permission to even access that off-chain data. The patient can potentially manage an allowed list.
So the patient gets more control over their data, and the integrity is still verifiable via the blockchain.
That's the core idea, yes. It balances privacy, security, and data integrity.
Okay, let's talk about a real-world example where this is making waves. The sources highlighted the pharmaceutical supply chain. There was a case study, Wellgistics Health.
Yes, Wellgistics Health and Pharmacy Chain. This was back in October 2025, according to the sources. Wellgistics is a big drug distributor.
What happened?
They announced they were integrating blockchain-enabled smart contracts into their drug tracking system, partnering with a company called Data Vault AI.
And the market reaction?
It was explosive. Their stock symbol, WGRX, shot up over 168% in a single day.
Wow. Okay, so investors clearly saw huge potential there.
Yeah.
What was the system actually designed to do?
The goal was end-to-end tracking and security. To follow a prescription drug securely, all the way from the manufacturer through the distributor to the pharmacy and finally to the patient.
How does that help fight counterfeits?
By creating that immutable, transparent record, every time the drug changes hands, it's logged on the blockchain. You have a verifiable history for every single package. It makes it incredibly hard to insert fakes into the legitimate supply chain.
So, improve patient safety. What else?
Compliance, certainly, but also potentially fairer pricing.
How so?
One model, described in the sources based on Ethereum, suggested the system could ensure fixed profit margins for each stakeholder along the chain. Because every transaction is recorded, you can enforce rules so the price only increases by a set transparent amount at each step. The idea is to prevent weird markups and ensure the final price for the patient doesn't exceed the official maximum retail price, or MRP.
Interesting. So it brings transparency not just to location, but to cost buildup.
Potentially, yes. That's one of the proposed benefits.
And the sources even looked at the technical efficiency, the gas costs on Ethereum for this. Without getting lost in the numbers, what was the takeaway?
The takeaway was that it's actually quite efficient. The computational cost the gas needed to set up all the players in the supply chain, or to log in, or even to record a purchase transaction was relatively low.
But it's not like it's going to crash the system or require supercomputers everywhere.
Based on that testing, no. It suggests the technology is feasible and potentially scalable from a processing power perspective, even on a public chain like Ethereum, though consortium chains are still often preferred for other reasons like privacy.
Okay, efficiency seems workable. Let's zoom out again. What's the bigger picture for the market? Where's this heading?
The growth projections are pretty dramatic. The sources put the global blockchain in healthcare market at around $78 million back in 2025.
Okay, relatively small starting point.
Right, but it's projected to explode to $641 million by 2035.
Wow, that's quite a jump. What's the growth rate on that?
It works out to a compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, of about 23.4%. That's very strong, sustained growth over a decade.
And where in the world is this activity concentrated?
Currently, North America dominates, with over half the companies headquartered there.
But looking at,
The forecast flips. By 2035, the Asia-Pacific region is expected to grab the largest market share, maybe up to 46%, especially for applications like drug discovery and managing clinical trials.
interesting shift. Okay, the potential seems huge, the market is excited, but no technology is a silver bullet. Let's talk roadblocks. What are the big challenges the sources flag? Scalability was one.
Still a major one, yes. Even with the hybrid approach, hashes on-chain, data off-chain, managing the sheer volume, even of just the hashes and metadata for things like MRIs or genomic data across potentially thousands of nodes. It's still a significant technical hurdle. The current solutions work, but they're a compromise.
Makes sense. What else?
Interoperability. This is a classic healthcare IT problem, and blockchain doesn't magically solve it.
Meaning different systems still don't talk to each other well.
Exactly. Different hospitals, different blockchain vendors, they might use different data formats, different encryption standards, even different consensus rules for how the blockchain operates. Moving data smoothly between these different systems or different chains is still difficult.
So we need standards.
Absolutely. Industry-wide standards are really needed for this to reach its full potential for seamless data sharing.
Okay, technical hurdles.
Yeah.
What about more fundamental conflicts? The sources mentioned a clash with legal rights.
Yes. This is probably the thorniest issue. It's the conflict between blockchain's core feature immutability and privacy rights.
Immutability meaning data can't be changed or deleted.
Right. But laws like GDPR in Europe include the right to be forgotten or the right to erasure. People have a legal right, under certain conditions, to demand their personal data be deleted.
And you can't delete data from an immutable blockchain.
Exactly. So what happens if a patient has a legal right to have, say, a sensitive health record erased? Maybe it was a misdiagnosis, or it's just outdated information they want gone.
Right.
If that record's hash, or even encrypted data linked via the blockchain, is permanently sealed there, you have a direct clash. Technology says cannot delete, law says must delete.
That's a pretty fundamental conflict. How is that being resolved?
Right? It's not really resolved yet. It's a massive regulatory and legal question mark hanging over the whole field. It requires serious thought about governance and how these systems are designed.
Okay, major legal hurdle. Any other big ones?
The human element, really. Awareness and training.
Meaning doctors and staff don't know how to use it.
Pretty much. There's a lack of understanding among many healthcare professionals about how blockchain works, how to manage the cryptographic keys securely, what smart contracts actually do, how it changes their workflow.
So adoption is slow because people aren't trained.
It's definitely a barrier. You can have the best technology in the world, but if the users aren't comfortable or knowledgeable, widespread adoption just won't happen quickly. We need better education and training programs.
Right. Okay, so let's try and tie this all together. We started with healthcare systems facing huge issues: security risks, fragmentation, counterfeit drugs.
Broken in many ways.
And blockchain comes in offering this vision of a transparent, secure, decentralized system using immutable ledgers and smart contracts.
Yeah, aiming to tackle patient privacy through better control and supply chain integrity through verifiable tracking.
Moving from these vulnerable, siloed systems to something more robust and potentially patient-centric.
Where the patient has more ownership, potentially, over their own health story.
But it's not simple. There are real technical challenges like scalability and interoperability.
Definitely. And huge training needs.
And this massive unresolved clash between the technology's core immutability and fundamental privacy rights, like the right to be forgotten.
It forces some really tough questions about transparency, liability, permanence, and control.
Which leads us perfectly into our final thought for you, the listener. We've explored this tension between making health records permanent and unchangeable for integrity versus the legal right to erase personal data. So consider this. As blockchain adoption grows, which is more likely to give way, will regulators force developers to build backdoors or ways to effectively delete data, potentially undermining the core principle of immutability? Or will our societal understanding of privacy have to evolve, perhaps accepting that certain kinds of health information, once recorded this way, might just be permanent?
A fundamental shift in how we think about data permanence.
Something to chew on. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.